An explanation is probably long overdue.
An explanation? Jesus Christ, Dad, an explanation? Look at me. Look at you.
It's not as bad as it looks.
Wait a minute, Dad. You mean you knew about this? You knew about this and you didn't tell me?
I was hoping I wouldn't have to. Sometimes it skips a generation. I was hoping it would pass you by.
Well, Daddy, it didn't pass me by. It landed on my face. What the hell am I gonna do?
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Doors. Prepare for Prattle. Shockphobia Fest.
Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan. And in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to Shockphobia Fest, a month-long celebration of All Hallows Eve's most frightening films and comic spooks. And we have finally made it. After over a year of planning, of time, effort, hours of reading, we have finally made it to the full moon of this month. It is All Hallows Eve, and this is coming at you. We have finally read, myself and Dennis, Werewolf by Night, the original Marvel horror series, which I feel is the third part of our Marvel horror kind of mainstay trilogy. We've done Tomb of Dracula, we've done the Macabre Man Thing, and now we're doing the Werewolf by Night. So I'm going to give it over to the shaggiest man I know, the delight that is Dennis Whittle. Welcome back, Dennis. It's been a while.
Thank you. You know I'm a delight, don't you?
You are an absolute fucking delight. And I have to thank you, Dennis, for I know this year has been a struggle for us all. It's been a long one. Maybe not so much as a year before, but it's been tough. But I know you struggle reading digitally, and I know this has been a struggle. And I appreciate that. And I've given you some good love, and I've given you some tough love about reading.
Shouted at me, basically.
I did. I said, read the fucking book, Dennis.
You did
basically.
shout at me.
I said, read the fucking book, because again, we have people that have voted for this. You wanted to read this. The fans wanted us to read this.
I did.
They voted on Patreon. They're paying on Patreon. You know, this is all a big deal. So they've been looking forward to this. People have been reading along with us. No
when
doubt.
I'm going to start seeing some of these Patreon money my way.
Oh, I see. Well, I do have your birthday gift with me here, so I could show you if you want. I could give you. Nobody else can see it. I could describe it.
Maybe we should leave it to the end.
Okay.
By the end of this, you might think, "Fuck it, he's not getting anything."
No, I'm not going to give him anything. So don't worry, Dennis. This is the last digital comic I will ever ask you to read. Okay, I will never ask you again. But just to put this in perspective, I have dyslexia. And Dennis has struggled to read this more than myself.
Okay. I read volume 1 digitally.
Mm-hmm.
I read volume 2 on hardcover. Friend of the show, Paul Meller, lent me his copy, volume 2.
What a lovely man, Paul Meller is.
Because he knew that I'm shit at reading digital. Mm. So it took me ages to read the digital. Mm-hmm. It took me 3.5 days to read the hard copy.
There you go. And that's faster than I can read physically. So there you go. Physically or digitally, I'd probably say. So you are a trooper. So I do appreciate it. I know I make fun of you.
All the time
for it.
Words hurt.
And yeah, but I do appreciate that we finally gotten right up until the last minute to do this. But we have done it. We've made it. So let's talk about our favorite dog-eared protagonist. Let's talk about Jack Russell, and that is his real name. They clearly like the old dog puns. So let's talk about the character, the kind of the series a little bit. Just tell us what you think of him in general and his origin.
Well, people who know me know that I like a good werewolf. I like a good Lycan. But unfortunately, like on movies, they're very hit and miss. They're either very good or crap, and that's Werewolf by Night.
So it's very good, or is it?
I find some of the books, some of the issues, very, very good, and some of them poor. And I think a lot of it is to do with the fact that within the horror of the 1970s boom, after the comics code was relaxed a little bit, and you had all these, all these characters coming out: Dracula, Wolfman, Frankenstein. You had Morbius. You had all these kind of characters coming out. I think Werewolf by Night gets lost in it all. And I think a lot of that is to do with how well the other characters were written, and that I think that is its major issue, is it's always fighting for that head above the parapet, because you've got Tomb of Dracula and Man-Thing kind of running at the same time, and Dracula for me is the strongest of all these. So we've discussed it at length before, and so I think some of it's rushed. Some of it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever at all. Nothing.
No.
The tropes that you usually get with a werewolf movie, book story kind of bobs in and out depending on who's writing it. So yeah, I struggled reading Volume 2 more than Volume 1, even though I read it quicker. Volume 1 I enjoyed. I think the art is brilliant. I think Conway writes very well in it as well.
Sure. Yeah.
But my favorite parts of Volume 1 are Marv Wolfman's writing with the Dracula stuff.
Yeah.
Which is it, even though it felt a bit shoehorned in there, Wolfman writing, Wolfman. Anyway, so that kind of stuff.
There was literally a joke, and they said finally a real Wolfman, like they say it in the kind of credits on the book. They say finally Wolfman writes a Wolfman, sort of thing. Like they knowingly knew that joke, and obviously they were like, ha 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 ha, very funny. It was the Marvel bullpen, having a laugh. So and I agree. Those are some of the strongest issues and the strongest character, and the crossover works really well as well. I got a bit confused though because there's so Jack Russell. For people that don't know, is his dad is it Gregorio or Giorgio or
he's Gregorio.
His dad, Jack's dad. He's Rusov, so he's a Rusov, and he lived in Transylvania, and he was a baron, or it was a baron, and he lived in this castle, had this money, and he got hold of the Darkhold, which people will be familiar with from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or WandaVision. It's also featured in, and it's basically the Book of Sins. It's a Bible of evil, effectively, and it was introduced within this book. So there's a lot of kind of strong and popular elements that are introduced in Werewolf by Night, which in a way I think it's a bit like Man-Thing, because there's more popular elements than the character itself and the stories itself that spring from this. And the Darkhold is definitely one of those, and Topaz and Tigra and Moon Knight especially. There's a lot of kind of those kind of things that happen, like Howard the Duck from Man-Thing and stuff. But he basically curses himself with that book. And he then becomes a werewolf, and this is passed down in his genetics onto his son, and he's killed classically by all these villagers in Transylvania, and then Jack moves with his mom to America and kind of grows up with his stepdad, who later, very bizarrely, turns out to be his uncle.
Yeah, like a box of hamsters. Oh, wolves.
But I was just like, and they still call him all the way through the book. They still call him his stepdad, and I'm like, just call him your uncle, like
Philip, isn't it?
Yeah, Philip. And early on in the story, when Jack turns 18, and that's when the curse becomes active in his bloodstream, or whatever you want to call it. He comes of age, and that's when the curse begins. And during this, his mum is killed, and it appears that the stepdad, his uncle, as you later revealed in the book, has orchestrated this guy who works for them, kind of like a Biff Tannen in Back to the Future. He's like the handyman around the house sort of thing. And he fiddles with a car and causes it to crash. And then she dies after revealing the secret of the werewolf curse, basically, to Jack. But she makes him promise to not hurt the stepdad. So that's a big part of the story, because he's like, well, I'm just going to kill him because he's killed my mum. And then later on...
And that's pretty much the only kind of thread that runs through the entire series is that cult, isn't it, that want the secrets of the wolf. I can't remember
the committee. The committee,
yeah. That runs pretty much all the way through, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think they even turn up in the Moon Knight book, actually, later on, and they kind of retcon Moon Knight's origin in there, because it's implied in the Werewolf book that they create Moon Knight and just have him wear the outfit. But actually, Mark Spector creates Moon Knight and kind of tricks them into doing it. Whatever. But yeah, they keep turning up, and there's like another thing revealed about them, and a new leader or a new person and a new thing they want with the werewolf. And it's kind of just a generic shadowy organization, but they're probably the kind of closest thing to like an arch villain in the whole thing. I have the same issue, Dennis. I have the same issue with this book. Like with Man-Thing and with Tomb of Dracula, there was consistency.
Yes.
Consistency of talent and writers and artists, and consistency of storylines and characters and motivations and stuff. So that's one of my big issues with it. Like, it constantly flip-flops.
But if you just take that like couple of minutes then of you describing the origin of the book, it was in Marvel Spotlight, wasn't it? The first 4 issues went through it. Even that is confusing. It's like, is dad the Darkhold turns him into a werewolf, but why? Because the genetics are already in him. Because years ago he fought Dracula, and it's just like, what?
Yeah.
And then even the 18 thing doesn't run all the way through, because his sister later on, they discuss about that as well.
Well, there's a I know, just to make people aware, Dennis hasn't read the full run like I have, but he's done an amazing job to read as far as he has. But in the 3rd volume, you were introduced to a character who has the most bizarre name in comics. However, I think he is a very good villain in it. He's called Dr. Glitternight. Yes, it's Glitter Night and the feeling's right.
To do a lot of jazz hands and things.
Weirdly, he just floats around like a kite mostly.
Oh, okay. Well,
and he has this kind of gem, but he's quite an evil sorcerer, and he resurrects Taboo, who is the stepfather of Topaz, and they have a kind of a mystical battle. And as she first turns into a werewolf for the first time, he then kind of imbues her with this demon energy, and she becomes like a were-demon wolf woman. But at the end of the completion of that story, she is actually cured fully of being a werewolf. So she's no longer ever a werewolf after that story.
I've just realised Gregor, his name.
Gregor, so not Grigoragoo, or what we're trying to call him.
Gregor's dad was the one who put the Darkhold together.
Yeah.
So he brought all the elements together, allegedly.
Yeah.
That's been changed loads of times.
My God, yeah. Well, it says there's that, do you remember the Mad Monk in the earlier issues?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, because he kind of says, well, I created it, and it's from me. And it's like, and if we go all the way back and we look at the history, obviously the various retcons to the Darkhold, it was written by, I think it's Chthon, which is like, it just means like evil. But he was like the elder god of evil, and he wrote that book, and it created vampires and werewolves and all that other stuff. And the book is indestructible. The pages are indestructible. You can't destroy that evil. And I love that. I love that aspect to it. And another thing which I didn't really enjoy about the series is there's no goal or drive. It's literally like, I actually quite like Jack as a character. Like, he is a bit of a doofus, and he kind of like, he never has a job because he's living off his mum's inheritance. So he never has like, oh man, I've got to keep my job or something like that, like a Spider-Man type thing. Like, I can't get fired. He's literally just like a bit of a hippie, really, kind of a bit of a, and I kind of wanted it to be a bit more like the Incredible Hulk a little bit. Like he's traveling all over, and he ends up in all these bizarre places and meeting all these different people and these different stories and scenarios and situations. And, maybe he's looking for a cure, but there's no goal. Like it takes about 15 to 20 issues for him to decide, you know what, I should probably try and cure myself of being a werewolf, or lock myself away on a full moon.
Yeah.
It takes him like literally, because Another problem I have with the book, and I think it's a little. The problem is because it's based off obviously the lunar cycle, which is a monthly thing. The first few issues, I think they struggle to get that balance right of going, oh, this story we had to put the pin in this story for an entire month until the next issue, which kind of in a way it's quite nice because obviously there were monthly books or sometimes bi-monthly depending on the release schedule. So it was kind of almost like they're like, oh, well, we didn't hear much and we've got to do more studying about this before we act on it, or we couldn't really find that supervillain for whatever reason. But I think later on they kind of do the first night, second night, third night a bit more often, and that kind of makes it. And they spread that across issues as well, because initially it was usually all in the one issue, and then they had to be like, right, I'm going to sleep for a month and not do anything, and then when the werewolf comes around, oh yeah, we seem to find the danger again.
Just tends to travel for that month, doesn't he? He ends up going to different towns and
exactly.
Shit.
There's lots of scenarios where, like, there's one. It's a really great issue. And it's where the werewolf is trapped in a blizzard. I think it's in the third volume, so you've probably not read it. But his friend Buck Cohen, who's the reporter and is kind of his best friend and confidant, he looks after him, takes care of him, protects him, knows his secret, that sort of thing. Busy mate. And him, Jack, Topaz, and Buck Cohen's new girlfriend and her little daughter all go off for a skiing trip. And Buck goes, you know what, Jack? It's a little close to the full moon. Do you think this is a good thing to be doing? Going on a skiing holiday with an innocent young girl? And he's like, I'll be fine, mate. Don't worry about it. It's all right. And what happens is like, oh, well, I'll just get lost in the blizzard and the werewolf won't be able to find anybody. Problem is, Buck's girlfriend's daughter gets lost in the blizzard out with the werewolf, and it is a great issue, but it's predicated on something so fucking stupid and an idiocy of Jack just going, yeah, well, being a werewolf's all right, really. It's fine. I can deal with it. It's a manageable condition.
I don't mind, from somebody who grew up watching Buffy and things like that, and Doctor Who, I don't mind the kind of weekly monster kind of concept.
Yeah.
But the villains in it are just so throwaway, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the names and the powers, and they just pop up, one issue, defeats him, next, gone. And there's no real story arcs in it either until about halfway through volume 1. So you get the first story arc in Marvel Spotlight, which is basically introducing him. Mm-hmm. And then you get the next story arc in Werewolf by Night 1, 2, and 3. But that's it. Until at least like issue 20 or something, if I remember rightly. So you have the arc where he's learning about the Darkhold, learning about his heritage, learning about all that kind of thing. Oh, this is going to go somewhere. He's going to go and find. No, just it is almost like you've missed a book out, or there's a page you've missed. And you think, hang on a minute, he's just been told about all this, but no, he's going to go for a wander and kill some more muggers.
Yeah, and like you said, like with the Darkhold, I thought that was going to be a huge part of this series. Like he's got to protect the Darkhold, or he's got to find the pages, or he's got to stop people from using it, or he tries maybe a different spell to cure himself, and it makes things worse. But literally gets destroyed within a couple of issues, and then somebody's like, oh well, it's in his mind, and we can pull it from his mind, and all this other stuff. I'm like. That was one of the most just as stuff gets interesting, or just as there's a plot element where I'm like, oh yeah, actually I like this. This is good. Where's it going to go? And it just gets thrown away. A good example is later on. There's a werewolf ring that he finds. And this werewolf ring allows him to control the werewolf. He can't speak, but he can control the werewolf and mentally. And that's another inconsistency I'm going to go over as well. And this ring, and I'm like, okay, this is going to bring a new dimension to the stories. He can be more heroic. There might be more misunderstandings and stuff. And, he can trigger the transformation, away from a full moon. So, there's going to be more opportunities for some superheroics, within this horror thing. Gets destroyed, that issue, or the following issue.
Yep.
Just gone. What an absolute waste. Why introduce something so unique and so brilliant and so interesting just to dump it?
And it's like they don't know how to tell the stories. Like Conway is a really good writer. I just don't know whether I think you've hit the nail on the head that the monthly cycle thing doesn't work in comic book form.
No.
Because you need that but you need that next story, next hit, next hit,
Yeah.
next
You
hit.
need a cliffhanger as well, which you don't get, because he goes, oh well, we kind of resolved it, but it's half resolved, but we'll have to wait a month until I can become the werewolf again.
The amount of characters that kind of pop up and you think, oh, this guy is quite interesting. Next issue, where's she gone? Where's he gone? Nope, gone.
It's almost as if the writers want to come in, tell one particular story. They're like, okay, I want this, where, like, there's a great one where this police officer is constantly chasing Jack down. I think it's Lieutenant Hackett, and he's constantly chasing him down. You don't really know why, but he's like, I've got to kill this werewolf. No, that's it. He's, you remember the most dangerous game issue where this guy's trying to hunt Jack and is like, I'll let you, you can go away with your sister if you let me hunt you as the werewolf type thing. There's an issue of that. So he
like Craven-esque.
Yeah, a little bit. And it's his brother as well. The following issues, like, oh, you got to kill this South American military leader, and then I'll release your sister or give you a cure for your lycanthropy. So he's chasing him down because of that. He wants revenge for that. But then later on, it turns out that he is a werewolf, and also his neighbor is a werewolf. I think he's called Raymond Croker. And they also figure out that the only way to cure somebody of being a werewolf is to kill another werewolf in battle. So there becomes this big three-way battle of, werewolves, which is great, and it looks good. It's amazing. And Coker kills Lieutenant Hackett and cures himself of being the werewolf. And Jack's there like, oh, fuck, this was my only chance. There's no more werewolves left, which I loved. And that's in the inherent tragedy of the Wolfman and the werewolf kind of character. But again, it's like, that's it.
He doesn't come across as a tragic character. When Jack is Jack, he's just a dick. Ultimately, and if you watch, like, everyone always thinks that this is based on Wolfman, but it's not. The original idea was I was a teenage werewolf. That's what the concept, and then obviously Stan Lee changed it, and it was. But if you watch Wolfman, Talbot is he's devastated. He doesn't know what to do with stuff. He's he's trying to find a way of trying to getting someone to kill him or this, that, and the other. Jack, nah, I'm all right, Jack. Hey.
Well, even Topaz, again, interesting character. She use her empathic abilities to help control the werewolf, and maybe not control the werewolf, but at least direct him in the right way and not hurt people. And again, she's like, oh, gotta go, lost all my powers, back off to India. And she's the least Indian woman I've ever seen in my life as well. She's blonde haired with white skin. And I will say this, they do correct that in modern day. Like now in the continuity, she is an Indian woman and looks like an Indian woman. But again, like a really interesting character, really fascinating, good design. And they just sack her off for no reason. It's just like every writer comes in and goes, I hate everything that's come before, so I'm going to do my own thing. Like, and that's every 2 or 3 issues, easy. And
that would be okay, like an anthology, if that's what they stuck to. Because I think the longest kind of arc is the Marv Wolfman arc. Because I think that goes over I think it's about 7 issues, 8 issues, isn't it? With fighting on the moon. Anyway, I'll get back to that in a second. So
do.
I know.
Walking on the moon.
It's just ridiculous, but there you go. But and you have these flashes of brilliance in it, and the artwork is amazing in it. It's just all the way through, and I find the artwork gets less and less and less in volume 2 to the end up. It was almost like a green wax crayon. I like the look of him. He looks like Lon Chaney. They kind of reference him in the book as well. But there's nothing.
Yeah, they quote the Wolfman. I think in the first Marvel Spotlight. I think they quote the film. And
there's nothing. And this was my hardest thing in it, and the whole thing. There was nothing to make me read the next issue. The artwork and the covers are good, and just when you're getting budged over, oh, Spider-Man's in this one. Let's give this a let's give this a read.
Morbius crosses over.
Yeah.
Frankenstein crosses over. I quite enjoyed the Frankenstein giant-sized werewolf because it was Frankenstein comes along and he's looking for this kind of Satanist leader who is absolutely based on Anton LaVey, who is the real leader of the Church of Satan at the time.
Yes, yeah.
And he wants to transfer his body into a human body, his soul into a human body. And I really like that because that goes along with the whole Frankenstein idea. And, and he realizes that he's got to kill the werewolf to do it or something. I can't remember exactly, but the werewolf becomes involved. I think they need a sacrifice, and the werewolf is the sacrifice or something. And I like that issue because Frankenstein realizes, oh wait, that's evil. What I'm doing is evil, and then fights with the werewolf to stop all the Satanists. I like that.
The actual Frankenstein run in his own series is really underrated. I would encourage people to read it. I think there's not many issues. Yeah, I own them all because that's what I do, and I agree with you that those sort of stories are good. And there are stories where the werewolf is like the least interesting thing in the story.
Yeah,
there's other various things going on.
It's just like that.
And the amount of people he kills who are not technically supervillains or villains, and just.
It's a lot.
Okay. Yeah. And
he does often say, well, the werewolf hasn't killed anybody really, and I'm like, you have. You killed. He was like, he's not killed anybody who's not evil. I'm like,
well, in his first issue, he kills a mugger, right? Mm-hmm. We know nothing about that mugger. That could have been out of desperation, blah, 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 blah. Maybe a slap. Yeah. Maybe a slapper on the face, maybe take a leg off, but to kill him and then just wander off.
Take a leg off. Just take a leg off.
I think it's a bit mean, but he justifies everything he's doing, and I think that the point you make about the fact he doesn't give a shit during the cycle, he doesn't think. Hang on a minute, my granddad locked himself in a cage. My dad locked himself in a cage. What should I do? I know. I'll just carry on as normal.
Yeah, and he even goes to live in a singles flat. Like there's a building just for singles for like. And I'm like, that would be a massacre. And eventually he gets kicked out because like you're destroying it every month. This flat, you can't have it. Get out.
Like even later on, like you're talking about the over 3 nights they did it, and it's also that's inconsistent because sometimes he's over the 3 nights he's just a wild animal. Mm-hmm. Sometimes over 3 nights, the middle one he's the wild animal. Either bookending it, he's a bit more Jack and a bit more Wolf, and then he's back to being animal again. So even that's not consistent either.
No. And one of the things that annoys me the most is the narration.
Oh God, it's so problematic.
The narration is by Jack. Okay. So he is saying what the werewolf is doing. He's saying what he's feeling as the werewolf, what the werewolf is feeling, all at this same time. However, away from that, he'll go, oh, what happened last night? I don't know. He literally doesn't know, but he's telling us that he knows. And I go back to the Man-Thing doesn't have as big a run as Werewolf by Night. I think the idea of the werewolf, the art is one of the biggest selling points for me. Yeah. Mike Ploog, who we talked about on Man-Thing, and I think you said you've grown to love him over this particular run of issues because those transformation scenes are gorgeous.
They're fabulous.
Every issue he draws the transformation scene, and it's different, it's interesting, it's bizarre, it's weirdly slimy and stuff. There's not a better artist in this book, really, in comparison to Mike Ploog.
Absolutely, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. And he carries the book as much as Jerry Conway is, in my opinion, quite a good writer. He runs out of ideas, and it wasn't for the artwork, people wouldn't have stuck with it. But I also think. The reason why this book did as well as it was 47 issues, 44 issues?
43, I think.
43 was because it was the first time people could go out and buy horror comics again and have that kind of be able to take home a werewolf book, a vampire book, Swamp Thing, Man-Thing, Phantom Stray. So they had all these horror books out, all wanting the same thing. So I think the reason why it was so popular cannot be for how good the stories are, because they're not. that the fact you could go out and buy one, and maybe the monthly thing kind of worked for people, because back then you'd go and get them from your corner shop in America, couldn't you?
Yeah.
The Mom and Pa shops and things.
I will say this about it. I think it is better. I think it would be better if you read it kind of every once in a while. If you're looking for like a werewolf fix, just read a single issue Werewolf by Night. You don't have to necessarily remember the last thing that happened, because comics always recap anyway. So you can kind of, they know that like 2 months or a month has passed since you read the last one. So they'll always do a slight recap anyway. And I think it probably would be more enjoyable like that. But because I'm reading it, in a kind of a binge, I'm noticing all the holes in the plot. I'm noticing the holes in the story.
Yeah, I think that's a good point as well. God, I'm agreeing with you a lot tonight. That's got to change.
Well, great minds and all that.
Yeah, but no, I do agree with you. I think having a break between reading, because I just can't read digital, so because I was reading 70 odd pages a night to try to catch up, and then having a bit of a break and then going back to reading again was a lot more interesting. But I want to love it. I really, really want to like it, because I like werewolves.
Me too.
I think Wolfman's one of my favorite Universal monsters, and I like that kind of stuff. It is the inconsistent again, and he's inconsistent with his powers. Like in one issue, he goes up toe to toe with Spider-Man, and then 3 issues later, he's getting bitch slapped.
Yeah, by like a regular dude.
Yeah, and that's fine. So I don't get it. I don't understand.
I'm gonna go back to the narration as well, because like when we read Man-Thing, you said how good the narration was, and I absolutely agree with you. But the narration is not coming from Man-Thing, because he's a mindless creature, and the werewolf should be somewhat the same. And I think having it be Jack to narrate it is problematic. And again, unless he has control over the werewolf, I'm fine with. If he has complete control, but you can't spend a whole issue with Jack going like it through every little detail. Like I snarled, I slashed, I felt the cuts, I bit into the deer, blah, 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 all in this gorgeous kind of, and it's not bad narration, but it's just like every issue, it's totally different. It's like, well, I do remember this and I feel what the werewolf is feeling, but I kind of don't, and I kind of do. And then right at the end of the issue, you go, guys, I don't know what happened. Fill me in.
Yeah.
You can't have that.
No, and the Man-Thing narration, was explaining what he was doing. He's, the lumbering beast comes, so it's talking in third person.
Yeah.
Well, this is, I felt this and I felt the other and I did the other. And if you're slicing through people and you're narrating it and know about it, then when you go back to humor, you're thinking, next month, I perhaps should do something about that. Maybe file my nails down or something.
In spite of myself, I still kind of like Jack as a character. Like, there is some kind of boyish energy and charm to him, even though it never felt like a real burden. The Wolfman curse, the werewolf curse.
I think he's very much. I think this book is very much a victim of the 70s, and I think people wanted to have these kind of heroes that were boyish charms, the kind of rebel without a cause type stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's aged particularly well because of that. Where Man-Thing and Dracula, and even some of the smaller ones, the Tales of Suspense stuff, has aged really well, because I think it's arcs back to the 30s, so you can kind of forgive stuff. I think with this one, I think it's very much a victim of that. Like, for instance, they both fight biker gangs, don't they? You've got Man-Thing fights a biker gang, and a werewolf fights a biker gang. Again, very 70s.
Yeah.
The Man-Thing one is almost written like a ballet when he's doing it. The wolf one, it's over in 2 pages.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to it. It's just rah, slash, next.
And again, the problem is they can't really show that, even though they're introducing more horror elements in the 70s. We've talked about it before, the loosening of the comics code. There's still a lot of stuff they can't really show or go into. Like, you can't really show, someone being torn to shreds by a werewolf. You can't really do that. Even within that, it's even within the loosening, it was still pretty tight. So it's almost like they want to go whole hog with it, but they can't. Here's a question. So in the Frankenstein series, he moves from, the past, whatever century he's from originally in the books, in the Mary Shelley novel.
Yeah.
And he goes into the 70s. Do you think Jack's character should have been, maybe that should have been Gregory or his ancestors back in classic Transylvania? I
think it would work better that way. I think werewolves work better in the past. Of that kind of thing.
Okay.
I just don't think it's not aged well. And I think having maybe more of a backstory, because it's so convoluted how the powers work.
Yeah.
And the Dark Hole gave him his powers, but why did he have the powers? Because he had the genetics, because his dad had the genetics. And you have this big fight with Dracula, because Dracula's a bit of a knob.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you look at the other horror things, you've got Dracula, whose narrative is he's a bastard and he wants to kill, rape, pillage. That's what he does.
Yeah.
And that's all the way through the issues. That's what he does. He's brought back to life because they need him. And he goes, yeah, I'll help you, but then I'm going to go and kill people.
Well,
Man-Thing has the same narrative all the way through as well. Werewolf by Night doesn't. And I think that's its biggest problem. The narrative changes.
So we talked about Tomb of Dracula, and we talked about Frank Drake, who is the kind of cheesy hero. I'm the hero of the story, but he's always called up on why he's such a he's a bore. He's kind of, patronizing. He's like, I'm a man and I'm going to do this. And the character's always kind of laughing at him, and calling him out on him being a dickhead. But Jack never really has that. No. You get kind of book going, maybe you should lock yourself up, or maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe and he, all the while, like, Book Cohen is the best character in it for me, because he is just a devoted best friend, and he calls him, he calls Jack out on occasion, not really a lot.
He's like the Rick Jones character, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the sidekick, and I think, again, like, I expected more of an Incredible Hulk vibe, like on the run, cursed.
I think that would have worked. Yeah, I think that would have worked more, kind of like the TV series as well, going places, helping people, moving on to the next town, looking for a cure, getting close to a cure. That the Lonely Walk type thing. But I closed Volume 2, and I can't remember pretty much any of the characters in it. And said, but, Tomb of Dracula, I bet you could name at least 5 characters in it.
Tomb of Dracula?
Yeah.
So you had Quincy Harker, Rachel Van Helsing, Dracula, Frank Drake, Blade himself. I guess the Silver Surfer turns up.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange turns up.
What characters have been Man-Wolf? Wolfman. Man-Wolf, that was the other one.
Werewolf. Okay, here we go. Morbius, Frankenstein.
Okay, let's not go for the easy ones. Let's go for like.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the villains. Like, you were saying that the villains in this are a bit throwaway, but there are to be fair, there are throwaway villains in Man-Thing. There are throwaway villains in Tomb of Dracula,
but they are done better.
Okay, so go on.
This is set up.
Use one as an example. Give us the villain as an example, and tell us why it doesn't work.
Baron Thunder.
Please go on.
Which is my favorite. It's going to be my name from now on. That I think mine should be Baron Thunder Pants. Okay, so where do I go with Baron Thunder?
So Baron, if I remember rightly, Baron Thunder is revealed to be a new leader for the committee at one point, and he's trying to get werewolf powers, I believe.
He wants to be a shapeshifter.
Okay,
and he's got a mate, a corrupt police person, Lou, who's kind of helping him.
Oh, and you've got Ma Mayhem as well, this old lady that's introduced. But then, and she's mental because she just like goes at a policeman with an axe. I love it. But then it's revealed that she's some beautiful woman afterwards, and I was like, that's worse.
Yeah,
like, I like a creepy old lady who wants to kill people. It's more interesting.
I'll tell you which villain I did like. And it was in the Spider-Man issue. Was it Grog? Grog, Krogg, Grog, Grig.
Oh yeah, it's like a furry, like a Wendigo.
I liked that. I thought it was quite cool. But again, popped up, got beaten. Next page.
But go on, Baron Thunder. Why does Baron Thunder as a throwaway villain not work?
Because he's not able to go up against the wolf. For me, if I was a villain in this book, I would wait until the full moon's disappeared, and then I'll go and chop Jack's head off. But nobody does that. So Baron Thunder, for me, apart from his name, he goes up, he wants the powers. The policeman wants the powers. He's also a bit of a shapeshifter. He's got a ring, blah, 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 blah. Gets killed. For one, his design's shite.
Yeah. It's a fat, hairy bloke.
Yeah,
with
he's
his shirt off.
Yeah, he's the fat
he's got
controller.
He's got a monocle.
Yeah.
He's got a monocle and a goatee.
Yeah. So his design's shite. He's supposed to be super intelligent, but he's not.
He's not super intelligent because he runs at a werewolf and fights him.
He does, but he's very strong too. He can bend bars and things. He can bend foot. It's just he's not a threat to the werewolf in any shape or form. He's not a threat. Now you look at Man-Thing, and Dracula's a prime example. Blade. Blade can go toe to toe with Dracula. Yeah. That works. He's a threat. Van Helsing can go good toe to toe with Dracula. That's a threat. I can't think of any of the villains really in the whole of this that you would say, apart from, I'd say kind of like Moon Knight. He's not really a villain, but he's portrayed as a villain. To be Morbius.
Fair, to be fair, the Moon Knight issues are fantastic.
Yeah,
it is an absolute slobber knocker. Doug Monk is the basically right at the end of the run. He's the most consistent writer, so he got the most kind of chance and opportunity to do something. Yeah. And Doug Monk is one of my favorite comic book writers. Yep. His run on Moon Knight is fantastic. The original run on Moon Knight, absolutely check it out. It is much better than Werewolf by Night. I 100% think that the character is just better on every level. He's also one of the best Batman writers, and I think
he is. Robin as well.
Yeah, and he had those kind of training wheels of Moon Knight to get into that and to get up to that point. He's a big fan of gothic horror. He does a lot of horror stuff with Kelly Jones and things like that. Like, he is fantastic. And I think it is the talent involved, especially on the art, like Mike Ploog, who also co-created Ghost Rider. And I think that's why they look almost identical as well. There's an issue later on in the third book where they meet and they both just got their ginger hair, and I'm like, you look identical. You're the same guy, basically. One got slightly shorter hair or something. I was like, they're the exact same guy. But like Mike Ploog actually left comics and went to be the production designer and
storyboard.
Yes, storyboards. So he did the storyboards for several things, including The Thing, Little Shop of Horrors, Superman 2, Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, Ghostbusters, Ralph Bakshi's Wizards and Lord of the Rings, Moonwalker. My God, he did it all. He went to Hollywood. He was like, forget this comics, forget this werewolf. I'm going to Hollywood and getting actually paid for stuff. And he's, and that's why he was so talented and got plucked, no doubt, because he's amazing. And if you look online, you can find his work on The Thing, and it's fantastic. Highly recommend. But the villain, we were talking about the villain.
Yeah, Baron Thunder, he possesses strength. He possesses super intelligence. He can bend a bar U-shaped in a matter of seconds. I'm just reading this now, so it's in my notes.
Okay.
He's also got some sort of like healing factor durability. So technically, he can go up against the wolf, proper toe to toe. Nowhere. He stands. I get it. He's like the Bond villain. He's standing in the background getting Jaws to go and do his things. I get that, but the guys who sent like Blofeld couldn't go up against Bond toe to toe. This guy can. He knows Jack's secrets. He knows loads of stuff about him. Do a Green Goblin, use it against him. No. It's gonna do the Behemoth and get him to do stuff and all this kind of shit.
Yeah.
So I just don't.
God, that was an interesting issue. Just get this big stone golem to go and get him.
It's basically Gollum. It's basically a golem, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a golem. Yeah. I think there are some interesting villains. Did you like the Hanged Man?
I did like the Hangman, yeah, very much.
I thought the Hangman was all right. That was a Marv Wolfman.
Yeah, I quite like when he was, he's literally hanging the wolf.
Yeah, he's like, he's got a big noose and he's pulling him.
Yeah, I did like the Hangman.
He's got a big side. And I love that he comes from this. It's a really silly origin, but I like it. He watched all these kind of like Jimmy Cagney, Humphrey Bogart kind of movies, and he was like, those are real heroes. Those are real men. I'm going to be like them, who don't give a shit and they don't play by the rules. But he's also this kind of deeply misogynistic character because he locks women up to protect them.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Do you mind if I just bring in? I'm just going to get a drink. Do you mind if I bring up another point?
Sure. Yes.
I know it's the 70s, how badly are women treated in this series?
Jesus Christ. The sister is not even written. She's like, oh, Jack, where's Jack? Oh, we've got to find Jack. Jack.
How many women are killed? How many women are tortured? Every single, they talk about, Ron Mars fridging a female. Jesus Christ. This is like a meat market. The amount of fridging what goes on here.
To be fair, though, like Dracula, he basically drains the blood of a woman every issue in Tomb of Dracula.
Yeah, but that's forgivable, because that's what Dracula does.
Okay, but yeah. the werewolf could do that. It could.
Yeah, but it's not the werewolf. It's not the werewolf doing all this. It's everybody else.
True. Yeah,
everybody else is killing the women. So to get at Jack, they kill the female. Like I said,
the mum dies pretty much straight away.
Yeah, and is car crash and this and the other. So I think women are treated really poorly. Yeah, should recommend it some feminists to read. They love it.
Probably not for the feminist crowd. Speaking of feminists, though, what did you think of the introduction of Tigra, one of my favorite characters?
I thought it was very good. I don't know why they designed it the way they did it, because she's supposed to be a wolf, because that's the title, isn't it?
It's werewoman, but she's like, because initially that character was known as the cat, and then she's transformed into Tigra, and it's kind of this cat legend.
And I was surprised to see Hydra, if I was honest.
Yeah, I think that's a great issue. It's a fun issue, and again, the focus is not the werewolf.
No, exactly.
So,
the strongest books are the one when he's not the focus. Everything else is,
Yeah, the Spider-Man team-up issues, things like that. I will say this. There's a lot of. I do think there are a lot of highlights for me. There's a series of issues 34 to 37, which are actually inspired by a film, The Legend of Hell House, which is, I think it's quite a good film. And our friends over at And Now the Podcast Starts covered it. And it is like, it's literally it's basically the plot of that film, which is a good plot, but just throw a werewolf in there. And there's a scene where there's an issue where they separate the werewolf from Jack, and he fights it. And there's all this Lovecraftian torture and dark stuff. There's stuff hidden behind things. There's ghosts and everything. There's all sorts of proper decent spooky stuff, and it really works. And that is in the third volume. I think that's one of the better stories. I think.
Well, I kind of liked it as well when they went to the giant size stuff. When it was a magazine. The creature monthly type stuff. Different writers having different things on it, and they just brought something a little bit different to the table. Because it was literally one story per issue. And it wasn't about
it's an extended story, so you're getting 40 pages worth of content, possibly more, because there would probably be reprints in there as well, to fill it up. But you get a decent sized story,
and it's good in black and white too.
Yeah,
the artwork's amazing in black and white.
Yeah, it does look good. I always really enjoyed the Marvel Essentials, and I read Man-Thingers in black and white. I read Tomb of Dracula in black and white, and I like the color, but I also don't mind the black and white on as long as the art's good.
So earlier, Dan, you mentioned the Darkhold. So there's only one copy of it.
Yeah.
What do they go and find halfway through Volume 1?
And find another copy.
They do indeed.
So consistent.
And it gets lost, doesn't it, in the Alps?
Yeah, they're like, oh well. And
it's literally like that, though, isn't it? It's like, Jack, we've lost it. Okay.
Oh well,
back to San Francisco.
I mean, could have been the source to a cure that I'm not even looking for, but who cares?
Well, that's what, isn't it? That's the thing. For those couple of issues, this could cure me. This could stop me being, what I am. And then it's lost, and he thinks, yeah, it could be worse. Tomorrow's another day. And why do they fight on the moon?
Oh, so that issue is when there's a fucking brilliant idea that they fucking waste as well, where someone tries to hire Jack as a stuntman, and they don't do anything with it for 10, 15 issues. Then they bring it back for one story and fucking sack it off again. And I went, Jack Russell as a stuntman, yes, give me that. Hollywood, he's got to be an actor. He's got to deal with all this sort of stuff. I love that shit. I love the idea of that is brilliant, but they do fucking nothing with it again. It's one of the most interesting things. I'm like, yes, let's see where this goes. And it's always like the werewolf gets in the way of the good stories. That's what happens. It's like
That's bad, isn't it?
that's like
Imagine if you said Spider-Man would be good if he weren't in it.
That's the main problem. And I think, and later on in the third volume, just towards the end where it's about to be cancelled, they start making him a bit more superheroic. He teams up with Iron Man. And it's they're fine, cheesy superhero issues, but not really like horror.
Doesn't he team up with
kind of-
West Coast Avengers as well?
Not in the volumes we have, but that does happen later on. And I
I
think
didn't know that. I wasn't aware. I didn't know whether that was a dream or that actually happened.
well, funnily enough, he does become a member of a group called the Night Shift, which is a group of super villains that are formed from basically horror characters that weren't being used at the time. And what they did, the Shroud brought them all in. And he basically, they're like the Shadow, they pretend to be a villain, or the Green Hornet, they pretend to be a villain when actually they're secretly just undercover heroes. And that's the idea, because they're these horror characters. You go, well, you're obviously a villain. And they try and recruit Moon Knight. And one of the villains in Werewolf by Night, Tatterdemalion, who's this homeless guy I kind of like him because he's like, fuck the rich, eat the rich. And he keeps like attacking them and like hits them with a weighted scarf and stuff and burns them with his hands and stuff. And he's just like this homeless dude. And I'm like, this is brilliant. He's absolutely bonkers. There's a scene where Spider-Man jumps into this soup kitchen, and he's like, "I'm not gonna beat up homeless people. This is totally not cool." And then some guy throws hot soup over him. It's so bizarre. But yeah, that's one of my favorite villains of the piece. But
they give Jack more control, don't they, over the wolf?
Yes, yeah. Towards the end,
yeah. So he can control.
That's when Dr. Glitternight comes back and Brother Voodoo.
I love that Dr. Glitternight.
Dr. Glitternight comes back.
She was not called Dr. Gary Glitternight.
Oh, God. Cancel him. He's a true villain. Cancel.
Yes.
Anyway, he and Brother Voodoo's introduced and Glitternight.
Yeah, Brother Voodoo.
He wants to make.
Cool.
I like Brother Voodoo. He's great.
Yeah.
I think he's got a good set of powers. He's got an interesting backstory, more interesting than fucking Jack and his werewolf.
It is bad, isn't it, when the side characters are more interesting than the actual. Yeah. But Hulk went through a stage of that as well. I think the side characters more interesting than the Hulk. There's only so much you can do with them, really. Yeah,
and this. Did you read the story with the gladiator guy? The guy who dresses up like a gladiator and he looks like Jason Voorhees. He's massive. He takes his mask off and he looks like Jason Voorhees. What was his name? He was called something. I don't think I've written his name down. Doesn't matter. But there is this guy who Book Cohen. He wrote a script, and there's this guy who turns up, and he looks like he's a stuntman who got burnt doing a stunt where he's like, no, he's an actor. That's it, not a stuntman. And he was like, I'm going to do this dangerous stunt. And like the writer was like, you wrote this, so I blame you. And all the directors I'm going to get revenge on. But he literally looks like Jason Voorhees when he takes his mask off. And there's a lot of stuff as well with the cops hunting down the werewolf and being like I'm gonna get the werewolf. I've seen the werewolf. I know this is going on. I know this is happening. And
that should have carried on longer, doesn't it? That should be.
There is two separate main character cops are after the werewolf, and one of them again leads that big werewolf three-way fight, which is great. But the other one, he just goes, "No, I've seen Dr. Glitternight and all these zombies. You seem all right because you can talk now, the werewolf. So, and I know it's you, Jack, and you're cool." And that's it. Again, they introduce character elements, story elements, and stuff, and they sack them off almost immediately. Just when I'm like, oh, this is actually fucking going somewhere. It's not just going to be like, oh, I'm somewhere else and I'm turning into a werewolf. Girl. There needs to be some sort of development. And Jack never develops as a character. Literally never develops because he doesn't go, well, he just goes, yeah, it's a bit shit being a werewolf, but it's not like it's destroying my life. It's like every issue of Spider-Man, something like Spider-Man is fucking up his life. Like being Spider-Man is ruining his life, but he does it because with great power comes great responsibility. He's got to do it. He's obligated to do that. The werewolf kind of just goes, well, I'm going to be here in a bit. I'll probably turn into a werewolf.
I quite like the fact that Jack has a wonderful supply of iron jumpers all the way through the book as well. He starts off as quite cool with his like shirts and things, and by the end of season 2, he's wearing jumpers up to his neck. which amuses me. I was looking at the Hangman now again.
I just love, oh God, just the green trousers, constant green. He never wears anything else but green trousers.
No, green trousers, iron sweaters and green trousers.
Yeah.
I quite like the stories when he goes back to, when he's going to find the Dark Order and goes back to Transylvania.
Yeah.
And goes to all the castles and things. Because I think there we are. I've got him here, the gladiator guy.
There he is. What's his name?
Give me a second. Because all that's it's very gothic and it's very much of what it reminds me of.
What you like,
the 1930s. Wolfman meets Frankenstein. Wolfman that kind of stuff, which I quite like. But
good stuff.
Apparently they don't really want to do it.
What's his name, Dennis?
I'm trying to find it. Maniac. The murder is a maniac. That's the story. The cover just says, "Who will fire the silver bullet for the werewolf?"
Yeah, because they've loaded a gun with a silver bullet. Again, I'm so unenamored with these stories now. I'm like, oh, sounds exciting, but actually it won't be.
No, it'll be like, oh, here we go. So he's burnt his face. Oh, bless. Oh, yeah, he does like Jason, doesn't he?
He does.
Why did I not notice that first time? He doesn't look much like a gladiator, though, does he?
I found it. So his name is Atlas. He calls himself Atlas. He becomes a target of Buck Cohen because he was the most beautiful, handsome actor ever. He thought he was the best thing. Bit of a Clayface type, but and he goes after revenge. I quite enjoyed those issues.
I don't think that skirt's practical to fighting a werewolf. I'm just going to say.
Oh, absolutely not. No way. No.
Purple
way.
again. They like purple in this book.
But yeah, I will say this about the book. I like that it's set in LA, and this is interesting because I went back and looked through all the kind of original comics that were coming out at the time, and this was the first story in the Marvel universe to be set in LA, and that set the standard for characters like Iron Man, West Coast Avengers, Spider-Woman, Wonder Man, Savage She-Hulk, the Champions, the Runaways. They're all set in LA, and that's untapped potential as well as a location, because that is hardly ever used, really, because it's mostly all set in New York, the Marvel universe. Yep. So, there's stuff they could have done. They could have gone all around LA. They could have done. I think that fight with Atlas ends at the is it the Man's Chinese Theater?
Yeah.
So that I love that. I love that aspect, but it's just absolutely untapped potential in a location. Where those other books I just mentioned, like Iron Man, like West Coast Avengers, like Spider-Woman, who a lot of the subsequent appearances of Werewolf by Night were in.
Isn't he related to her?
No.
I thought he was like a cousin or something.
No, not that I know of. Anyway, I don't know if that's a modern thing, but
I'm just opened up this one here. Vampires on the moon.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so they're back on the set, aren't they? And they're looking for other stuff. And then
the artwork's terrible in that issue.
Yeah, it's not good. I'll say this: a few of these issues are inked by Vince Colletta. Yeah. And if you are familiar with Vince Colletta, he used to ink a lot of Jack Kirby stuff back in the day. However,
Jack Kirby stuff.
Well, he ruined everybody's stuff because artists didn't like to work with him because he was known as being a quick inker, which, like Jack Kirby, he could draw really quickly. It's a good thing. But the reason he was quick is because he erased most of the art to get it done. And I didn't notice it when I was younger, but looking at these issues and then and they make a point as well when Don Perlin, who's the other kind of after Mike Ploog leaves.
Yeah,
I tell you what, that issue that he leaves on where he fights the mutant hunchback is a fantastic fight. In the airport.
Yeah, I do like the hunchback.
Yeah, that was a really good. And I love that he's a mutant and it's a modern day hunchback, but they still end up in Notre Dame, don't they? They still end up in the bells. The bells.
Why would you not?
Exactly. But that's using the location.
Yes.
Where they don't fucking bother with LA. They're like, that's LA. It's just
talking about location, the Spider-Man issue is also in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And how good does Spider-Man look on the Golden Gate Bridge?
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like that. I think it's really nice. And it is nice seeing different people in different locations and doing different things. But yeah, there's a good documentary about Inca, isn't there, on YouTube? Have you seen it? About how bad he is. Okay, I'll send you the link.
I bet he loves it. I bet he loves that documentary.
I'm a big fan.
But like they were making a point of Marv Wolfman and being the writer on Werewolf by Night. They made a big point that Don Perlin, who again just took over from Ploog and kind of went till the end of the series, and I don't think he's as good an artist as Ploog, but I think it's fine. It's serviceable, but he's not my favorite. Like I'd prefer some of the other artists.
Yeah, he just seems a bit lazy when he's drawing. There's no detail in the transformations as much.
No, they're not as good.
No, and like that picture I sent you of like the full face roaring, first time he changed. You don't tend to get that. It just seems to be a hairy man with teeth.
It's almost like, right, get it out of the way, get it done.
Yeah. So and like the transformations, in the first volume, it's like 4 or 5 panels, some of them, slowly and then you look at, the one I've just looked at, his jumpers, he looks up, it's just like the man, the 1930, he looks up, he's Jack. Next one, he's got a beard. Next one, he's the wolf. That's it.
Pretty much. It's not that great. But yeah, after they got rid of Vince Coletta, because he was there for a good few issues, and I think at least one of the giant sizes, he was there. And then the issue when he's not there, it's like Don Perlin, art and inks and they make it they capitalize the and. They were like, don't worry, he's fucking gone. Coletta's gone, baby. I'm inking my own shit, and it looked great. And I was actually trying to burn through those issues because I was like, oh my God. And because the main pull of this series for me was the art. And I'm like, you fucking took away the only thing I like.
I agree with you 100%. I think the art is what makes you turn the page over rather than the stories. So would you recommend Werewolf by Night to people?
It's a tough one because there's good writers on it. Len Wein's on it, Marv Wolfman's on it, Jerry Conway's on it, and they have done much better stuff. And I think some of the stories are good. The Glitternight, kind of first Glitternight saga and his first appearance is really good. The Legend of the Hell House issues as well. I think they're really good. The Hangman issues were good. There's I think in small doses it's fine, but I think if you look as an overarching story, it doesn't work. If you just go in and go, oh, that one I fancy, with the one with the hangman, or the one with the homeless people trying to hypnotize people, and with a kind of a weird snake mask guy going on, or if you want to watch the Moon Knight battle, there's some really good proper juicy fights as well, but they are few and far between. I think that's what I like about it. I still don't know why, but I still kind of like Jack, and I think Jack is Werewolf by Night is the literal underdog of Marvel horror.
Yes,
and I agree. And I think there's and I think the reason is all the stuff we've said. You can't go back. You can go back to Tomb of Dracula, you can go back to Man Thing and go, these are still great. Regardless of the artist on it, regardless of, who writes it, these are just good, really good. And that's why they're still talked about. This is why this isn't really talked about. And this is why the character has basically been in limbo since the 70s. He makes guest appearances and he'll have the odd, one shot or miniseries. But other than that, he just rocks up. And sometimes he has control over the werewolf, sometimes he doesn't. But he's never in
the 90s and 2000 when they draw him, he's like a massive wolf. He's huge, and I think they lost something with that, because having him being like the Lon Chaney kind of wolf, it just worked better.
I do recommend at the end of this, the third volume is it's kind of 30 issues into Moon Knight, the original Moon Knight series, and they meet up again. They kind of have a rematch, and then they kind of team up at the end as well. And I'll be honest, just get a Moon Knight collection with those issues in.
Because aren't they linked? Because he's Moon and Wolf. They have that, don't they?
Yeah, they have a link, and the kind of he wears silver.
Yeah, they will always be friends.
Yeah, kind of thing, and they kind of realizes that it's really he's working for the villains type thing, and they kind of rewrite it a little bit. Like I say, they retcon a lot.
Yeah.
But it still works, and the rematch is kind of Moon Knight protecting him from these Satanists, and watching the Werewolf by Night and Moon Knight team up against Satanists. And it's Bill Sienkiewicz art as well. Doug Monk's writing is fantastic. Yeah. So I would recommend Moon Knight instead.
Well,
Because
if
How's
anyone,
go on.
I think we both agree that if anyone was to say which horror book would you pick up, for me it'd be Tomb of Dracula, Man Thing, even A Son of Satan. I think Ghost Rider. I think early Ghost Rider is quite cool.
I've tried the early Ghost
I like the
Rider.
visuals. I like the visuals of it. It's very trippy.
But I also think Ghost Rider, the early Ghost Rider, has the exact same issue that Werewolf by Night does. Because is it horror? Is he a superhero? Is he in control? Is it the demon Zarathos? You know, I think
got a burning skull.
Yeah, but the werewolf looks good as well.
The werewolf does look cool.
You know, Ploog draws the shit out of that werewolf and those transformation scenes and those action scenes. But it's the same problem. I think when they get steadier writers, it's fine. But again, like, you can't do anything. And even Doug Monk tried, and even then, it's still kind of all over the show.
And then they were just guest writers, wasn't it? People just bobbed in and bobbed out. You know, it's like almost like if you want to get into a series, they would give you Werewolf by Night to write, or they'll give you Nick Fury or whatever.
Well, I mean, back in the day, the tryout book for Marvel writers and artists was Daredevil and Iron Man.
Yeah,
you know, those were the books that sold just enough. But you didn't have to be, you know, you didn't get like necessarily top quality or steady, consistent storytelling, and that was fine. And I really do feel like nobody wanted to be on this book. I get the impression. What
surprises me as a collector is how expensive Werewolf by Night is to buy in single issues. Now I get first appearance of Moon Knight. I get that. Why that's very expensive. No, I don't actually. Thinking about it now, no, I don't get it. Before it was even expensive even before they announced it was going to be a TV show and this and the other.
Yeah. He's had a resurgence in the last kind of 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? Since Civil War, since around the Civil War.
Yeah.
Time.
But even like the kind of throwaway issues are very expensive. Like I've got Spotlight 2, 3, and 4, and I've got Werewolf by Night 1, 2, and 3, both in quite good grades, and they're really expensive now to buy. And I don't get it, because I know Tomb of Dracula number 10, obviously Blade's very expensive, because Blade issue 1 and 2 about £200-300, but the rest of them you can probably pick up for like a tenner, £5, you know, that kind of stuff. You can't pick up Werewolf by Night. I was talking to somebody recently about Werewolf by Night, and he said he stopped collecting them because he just couldn't afford to buy them.
Well, there you go. I have no idea either. Like, I don't think, like, I personally, I'm more of a reader than a collector. I know you buy the first appearances and various other things, and you have that kind of locked away, you know, and that's kind of your inheritance for Amy and stuff. But I buy comics to read them eventually and get round to that. And I think I won't come back to this. There's no like, I might go, I would like to read that Werewolf by Night first appearance of Moon Knight or Tigra, or and again, like even like him meeting up with Morbius was a bit disappointing. But I think the crossover with Dracula is good. Right, we've talked about what we've not liked quite a lot. So I want to talk about, before we get towards the end, we've got about 20 minutes or so left. Okay. I want to talk about what you liked about it, what stories you liked, what characters you liked, you know.
Well, straight away, I think I said at the beginning, I liked the Marv Wolfman stint on it. I like the Dracula stuff. I like it when he appeared in Tomb of Dracula as well. I think it's well written. I think the arc's quite clever.
Yeah.
The artwork again is top notch, and it doesn't lose any of the kind of Tomb of Dracula stuff. He's still a bastard. He still wants to kill people. So I enjoyed that.
It's nice to see Mike Ploog's rendition of Dracula as well.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. I liked Spotlight, the first 4 issues of Spotlight as well.
Yeah.
I thought they were building to something.
Yeah, because there was an actual kind of plot, really, that kind of involved the curse and the dark hole.
Yeah, and the dark hole. So I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I think I liked issue 1 and 2, because I think it starts establishing some of the lore, which gets forgotten about later on. But they start establishing some of the backstory, that kind of stuff. Some of the villains, as much as a throwaway, I do like some of the designs, especially the demony ones.
Yeah.
I think the designs are really cool. Big monsters. The artwork is phenomenal. You know, it's every page is like a gallery. It's so good. And we both mentioned the transformations are brilliant as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think as you there's one page, so it's half a splash page with just the wolf's face, and it's awesome. It's really cool. The side character guy, the news, what's he called again?
Book Cohen. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Cohen,
like
yeah.
Book. He's the voice of reason all the way through the book. He's the one who kind of goes, hang on a minute, so he's like me. It's me saying, when I'm reading it, what are you doing, Jack? What are you doing? So I kind of like having that character there, because as you were saying before, the narrative and the kind of his thoughts are a bit weird. So it's nice to have that kind of leveling with Book there. Yeah, I also like the fact it only ran for 40 odd issues.
and you didn't even have to read them all.
No, and the team ups are good. I like the character is stronger when he's not the main focus.
Yeah.
So when it's Tigra, when it's Frankenstein, when it's Dracula, when it's
unlike Man-Thing, who effectively is a non-character, I still enjoy reading him more.
I love Man-Thing, with an absolute passion now, and it's your fault.
I've passed on that curse. That was my dark cold curse onto you.
And it's every single page was beautifully drawn. It was so well written.
And you feel for Man-Thing.
Yeah.
You feel the inherent sadness and tragedy of the transformation. Yes. The fact that he doesn't remember who he was. He doesn't know. He can only feel. He can only feel things. He can't think for himself. He's like this lost puppy. And Jack should feel like a lost puppy, a literal lost puppy, and he doesn't.
He never kind of wakes up and goes, shit, I've killed someone. But
it's
again,
70s white privilege.
Yeah, definitely. And he does have this kind of roguish charm about his character. Yeah. But for me, I liked it, but I think it got thin very quickly. Oh, yeah. I think I got tiresome very, very quickly. But volume 1 for me, the first, 20 issues or something? I can't remember. Yeah, I think that is well, I've not read volume 3, but no. I don't think I will either.
No, there is some good stuff in volume 3. Yeah. I'll go over that in a sec.
So I found volume 1 stronger to read, even though it has got lots of flaws in it and stuff.
It is very, like you said, Monster of the Week, but
yeah, which I don't mind, because a lot of the comics in the 70s were like Monster of the Week.
Yeah, sure.
That kind of like, but I don't even all the rest of the books around this time, which had Monster of the Week, still had a narrative. Still had a line. This is where we're going to go. Or three book arcs and stuff like that.
Characters developed. Characters changed. The stakes grew.
Never develops, like you were saying. Never develops. Never gets a greater insight into who he is and how we should use this power or whatever until the book's almost cancelled. Really,
pretty much.
So there's no insight to him. All the other characters around him grow. Book grows. His sister. All these people kind of become more. And they kind of leave him behind. I like the sceneries as well. I like the Gothic castles, and like I'm saying, having a wolf on the Golden Gate Bridge for me is just genius.
Cool. That is good.
I think visually it's amazing.
I will say this: I did get confused because Rusov Castle, which was in Transylvania, was brought over to the States by a guy called Blackagar, I think his name is, or Black something, and he rebuilds it there. However, later on in the Marvel film thing, that was like, the castle's back in Transylvania. I went, wait a minute, hold on a sec, and I realised that there was Rusov Castle,
yes,
and there's Rusov Manor,
yes.
See,
yes.
So I thought that was an inconsistency, but I was wrong. But no, he has two places for some reason,
and they look very similar, which doesn't help either.
And also they're opposite Dracula's castle.
Yeah, he likes having a neighbor.
There is an issue where they go back. I think it's in the 3rd volume where they go back to Transylvania, and there's a Romani traveler woman who's put almost like a zombie curse on this Transylvanian town, and then we find out again. Randomly, she's related to Jack. It's his grandmother or mother or no, not mother. So grandmother, I guess, or relative of some sort. And then she's like, I've got to kill the werewolf. I've got to destroy the werewolf because she was like, the werewolf ruined my husband. He died, but she didn't know he was the werewolf. And then when she sees Jack,
how did he ruin her husband?
Whatever. I don't even care anymore. But then, and again, it's like. and she goes, "Oh yeah, and I forgive everyone. It's fine." And she puts all this silver armor on a grizzly bear.
Yes, with the big claws.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Big
in
silver claws.
volume 2. Yeah, and he goes,
Volume 2,
claw
yeah.
him. Yeah,
That's it. And then she just and then she goes, "Oh, I'm all wrong," and I died, and that was it. And she's like, "Bye, Jack," as he turns back into his human form. And I was just like, you don't need to stop introducing these relatives. And again, like the whole idea that is because his dad was apparently owed money to the committee, and the committee killed Jack's mum, and that was because he was involved with them, but he was never evil. And again, that takes away all that tension that was built and the promise of not hurting him and stuff. And again, they do nothing. He just like Jack lounges around, stays at the beach house and stuff, and that's it. That's his arc throughout the entire film. He just enjoys himself until, oh shit, it's my time of the month.
Yep.
I've got to destroy.
That's how I said that he's ruined. That's how in my head when he said he ruined my husband. That's what I'm thinking is happening.
No. But I do enjoy something. So I'm going to recommend issues of Werewolf by Night 34 to 41. So that's the Legend at Hell House. So they're in this castle, this kind of manor, and there's all this weird and wacky stuff going on, ghosts, and, the werewolf gets separated from Jack. Some really creepy stuff goes on. It is really effective and very gothic. And I think you'd like that particular story. And that's followed by the Dr. Glitter Knight introduction and the turning of Jack's sister into a werewolf demon kind of mixture. And again, they have a great battle because it's brother versus sister, and they might kill one another. And you've got Dr. Glitter Knight throughout, just kind of honestly, kind of his eyes turn from pure white to pure black as well, and he's a really kind of quirky, kooky kind of villain, which I really like. Again, the Marv Wolfman crossover with Dracula is good. The Frankenstein story with the Satanists is good. But yeah, there are some good stories, and I like the Hangman stuff as well, as weird as it is.
The Hangman stuff's good. He's mental, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's just a batshit craze. All the villains are pretty batshit, including the Atlas, the Jason Voorhees looking motherfucker. Like the Taboo stuff as well, with Topaz's stepdad and stuff, and the introduction of Topaz.
The Taboo pops up quite a lot.
Yeah, he pops up again. He pops up in that third volume, and he was like running the committee at one point. Like, there's always another guy behind the committee, and they just keep coming back. But yeah, some really good stuff. There's that homeless storyline where the committee have hired this guy to kind of mesmerize people and stuff. I thought that one was pretty good. But yeah, there are, and that Most Dangerous Game type one was pretty good. Again, it's not all bad. It's just on the whole, and thinking of it as a whole. I will say this: check out the Werewolf by Night podcast. All the podcasts they do a podcast about a single issue each time. So we're just doing kind of a mass kind of general overview of the entire series. But check them out because they will go in depth in every issue and tell you whether it's good or not. So definitely check those guys out if you want more details on those specific stories and details and stuff. Again, they might love it. We might not necessarily love it as much, but there's some good stuff here.
The good news is, Dan, no matter how bad this issue gets, it's still 100 times better than the new imagining of it.
The reintroduction reboot of Werewolf by Night.
Yeah, which is horrendously bad.
But I have heard that Marvel are planning a Halloween special featuring Werewolf by Night. Rumor has it. I'm not sure if that's a live action or an animated thing or a TV show.
If they're bringing Moon Knight in, it makes sense that they would put Werewolf by Night in.
Yeah. And apparently Kevin Smith wanted to use Werewolf by Night in one of his animated Marvel cartoons that didn't get made. And Marvel said, absolutely not. We've got plans for Werewolf by Night. So there's definitely something in the offing with Werewolf by Night. So keep your eyes open. If you like the character, I can understand why. But he doesn't make a good showing of himself in these issues. But I've had fun reading it. It's not. I've put all my other comic book reading to one side because obviously it's quite a lot to read and stuff. But we've done it. We've conquered the mountain. We brought Mohammed to the mountain. I brought Dennis to this comic.
Thanks.
And we've conquered it. You wanted to read it, motherfucker.
I did. No, I did. It's my fault. It's all my fault.
I think it was between this and Son of Satan. I think the vote was originally for, because I was like, sounds good. I'll tell you what, Dennis, how about this? To make up for this that you've had to read, even though it was your choice, how about we finally get round the next podcast we do our top 5 werewolf films.
We could do that.
Yeah, you'd be happy with that. Is that all right?
I like a good lichen. You know that.
Yeah,
that's why I like you, because you're very hairy.
I like a lichen.
I like a lichen.
I liken it a lot.
But just to let your listeners know, even though I do buy back issues and really old comics, I read them all. I don't do CGC.
No.
So even my daughter's been reading Golden Age Batman comics since she's been 4, because there's absolutely no point in buying comics and not reading them.
Absolutely. Same with your action figures to a degree. Like there's a lot of them I get out. I got out my massive Sentinel. I've been playing with that, and also, there's a couple that's still kind of there in the box. But for the most part, I like to get out and take off the shrink wrap every now and a while and just have a good play.
Is the shrink wrap the woman you've got in your fridge?
Perhaps. But no. Yes, but we'll do. How about we do that? So maybe I know we've got our New Year's Eve podcast to do. So we're doing Terror Train versus New Year's Evil.
We are.
So I think I'll release that probably on New Year's Eve. Maybe that'd be fun. No one will listen to it then, obviously, because they'll be too busy partying the night away.
Until they might be until the government shut down everything again, because we're all getting COVID again.
Oh, don't say that, Dennis. Don't taint it.
Well, it's horror, isn't it? I want to give more horror out there.
No, but yeah. So maybe January, February, we will do our top 5.
You know what we should have done for horror?
Go on.
We should have done Captain Marvel and Iron Man 3.
Or the movies.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Too mainstream.
And but we do it from a horror perspective, the fact how terrible and horrific it is.
They would be bad. But this has been a very busy month for me. So
I wouldn't recommend Werewolf by Night.
Yeah. I
wouldn't, because I think it's too inconsistent.
Yeah.
For me.
I think it's gonna piss people off more. But again,
yes.
There's set stories and set moments. Again, like I said, if you like every once in a while, if you just feel like, oh, want to read a werewolf comic, just do another issue. But don't think too much about the previous issue, or if you remember all the details from the previous issue, it's going to piss you off, I think.
And that's why the digital stuff comes in handy, because you can dip in and out.
Exactly. You can read, 1 week you can read it and you could be like, you can forget about it, put it out of your mind. You can enjoy because the transformation scene's great. The werewolf is great. It looks great. If you're looking for that, if you're looking for werewolf action, it's fine. But as an overarching story, it's not good.
I'm just laughing, saying like you can dip into it and then forget about it. Yeah, I dipped into it and forgot about it for 9 months.
You certainly did, Dennis. And Dennis turned around to me and he was like, you said, "Oh, we've not done a podcast for a while." I was like, "Yes, Dennis, because I'm expecting you to have been reading this book." And you're like, "Oh, right." And then he was like, "Oh, well, I could have bought it. And I could have read it like that." And I went, it was like, "Oh, if only we'd planned it." And I went, if only we'd planned it, motherfucker. It was voted for over a year ago, almost a year and a half ago. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, but we could have planned it. I could have bought it." I was like, that was the point. I told you then, so you could buy it and read it. So I said, all the way back to bloody, Spider-Man Clone Saga we were supposed to read. I was like, get the book, get it read. And you were like, well, it wasn't out then. Oh,
but I always come through in the end.
You do. Yeah, and fair play to you. You do it, but I'm not gonna go out and find something that you or I don't already own or cannot get hold of. Next thing we do read, it will be something one of us has a physical copy of, or we can get hold of, because I can't be asked being your naughty teacher going, "Dennis, you've not done your homework." I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, but yeah. It's fair enough. I've got no defense.
Yeah, and you don't want me to be that guy either, do you?
No, because it pisses me off.
Exactly.
I don't know where you live, but no, I do struggle with digital comics, and I'm not on my own with that. No. I think it's a generational thing.
No, that's fine. I absolutely get it, but I've been reading digital comics for years now. And people were like, "Oh, I didn't know you'd go digital and all this." And I'm like, it's mostly access for me. It's because I can just get it anywhere. If I go, I want to read Daredevil Born Again, and I want to read it right now, so I can do it right now, and then I can do it. And again,
I completely get that.
It's been practice and it's been cost. Again, I'm not great with my finances at the best of times, as you know, and it's mostly down to kind of cost and availability and things like that. And that's mostly why I do it. And the sales are always really good on Comixology, or Marvel Unlimited is very cheap, or Hoopla Digital and various others that have been mentioned. DC have got one as well, I think, somewhere in the States. There's a lot of that. And but I absolutely would still prefer, if I could have them all, physical, I would absolutely would. And when I was at during COVID, I went, what stuff isn't digital? It's rare and I want it. And because my money's not going to go anywhere else for a while. So I was like, right, let's get all these in. So I got loads of stuff. Like I got Camelot 3000. I got loads of kind of rare and weird and wacky stuff, and stuff that was so rare that it was a bit cheap as well. On the other side,
I bought an obscene amount of comics during the first and second lockdown.
Same,
literally an obscene amount.
Same. So much so, my flatmate was like, "Stop doing it. All the post that's coming through is for you." And I was like, "I don't care. I'm gonna buy them." So, but that's
it got to the point, because you remember, because we had this conversation with Sarah. It got to the point where I had stuff delivered that I didn't even know I'd ordered or bought.
I remember we were at the caravan and you got a call, and Sarah was like, "Oh, you've got some comics that come through," and he went, "Comics? I don't buy comics." and then she opened it up and went, "It's comics, Dennis." So it was like, I think it was like Justice Society or something. He went, "Oh yeah, I did order those." Don't buy comics, me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Listen, I've got a problem. What can I say?
You were so like offended by the idea. You're like, "I don't buy comics. What are you on about? What are you on about? You don't even know what you're talking about."
What can I say? I like comics.
You do. Well, you do. You don't buy them though.
No. I've got in front of me, Dan. I've got 4 boxes full, which I've not opened yet.
Who bought those? It wasn't you.
They just turn up. I don't know. I don't buy them.
Just rock up at the door.
It's a late birthday present for myself.
Oh, well, we have finally come to the end of our long, hairy saga. It has been hairy reading this book. Again, not really a full recommendation from me. I think there are highlights. There are good things about it. But on the whole, I think you would be better off reading Man-Thing or reading Tomb of Dracula, or like you said, Son of Satan, Frankenstein, maybe something else that's maybe a bit shorter, a bit more consistent, hopefully. I know Steve Gerber wrote Son of Satan, so maybe I'll do that one time soon. I would like to read that. I do own that, so I
so do I.
That. Yeah, well, we can both read it then. Have you got it physical, Dennis? Have you got it physical?
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it in the the
Masterworks, yeah. Well, we could do that. Maybe we could do that next Halloween or something. And I mean, I imagine it'll be a bit better. I could be wrong. Could
be any worse, really. No, it's awful. I didn't dislike it. That's the thing, it doesn't polarize the fact that I think it's a pile of shit. I'm never going to, never going to read any part of it ever again, because I will.
Yeah, even with Ronin, we didn't hate Ronin.
No,
we there was a lot of it that didn't make sense, and it was not the best. But I didn't despise Ronin. I didn't regret reading it or something. It wasn't like Dark Knight Strikes Again or something like that.
Jesus Christ.
It's not on a level where I just have absolute disdain for the book, and it's the same with this. It's just too much of a mixed bag, and it's mostly a mixed bag of not so good stuff. Unfortunately, there are, like we said, there are highlights, but it's up to you guys. If you want to read it, go for it. But this is our opinion. You could be completely the opposite. Who knows? But you can give it a try. You can not give it a try. It's there. If it's on sale on Comixology, it's probably if you want to go into the kind of history when that character, because no doubt that character is coming out in something, and I'm sure the prices will shoot up again for the comics.
I think the black and white is the cheapest way of getting it. I think on eBay they're a couple of quid.
Yeah, get on eBay, get them, get the Tomb of Draculas while you're there, get the Man-Things while you're there as well. They still look good in black and white. I read them in black and white, so there's nothing wrong. I read all the Moon Knights in black and white, which look excellent, considering obviously his costume. But so not a full recommendation. I don't know if this is a bit of a downer to end our Halloween season on.
It's not because we can't love everything.
We can't
because it just wouldn't work.
It would be nice to read a comic we actually do like, though, wouldn't it?
We liked the Nightmare on Elm Street one we read.
Yeah, true. And we like Man Thing, true.
Man Thing.
The last two we've not liked, though. Really.
Tomb of Dracula we both liked.
Yeah, we like that. Absolutely, yeah, definitely. But yes, so this is it. This is Shockphobia Fest 2021. It's been a busy month for me, I said earlier, because we've recorded Grimfest, which was not planned absolutely until the day before. So we did all that. I managed to edit that, all 5+ hours of that on top of all this as well, all the planned Shockphobia Fest stuff. Luckily, I did a lot of it early, which I'm glad of. And now I'm slowly catching up. I've got my November stuff recorded, so I'm going to start working on Christmas for Alternativity Stories. So we've got some lovely stuff planned. You name it, really wacky, fun, alternative holiday tales. We're even looking at fictional holidays as well, fictional holiday seasons. So it's going to be something very, very unique and probably my favorite season. A lot of everyone's favorite kind of theme month of Spider-Dan and the Secret Balls, because it is something quite unique. So I always look forward to it. But we're gonna say hello to the new year together, Dennis. Like I said, we're going to look at those slasher movies that were set on New Year's Eve. So that's going to be an absolute blast.
I do like a good slash.
We do. We absolutely do love a good slash. And Jamie Lee Curtis is in it as well. Is in
Terror Train, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Hart Bochner of Die Hard is in Terror Train as well. And who's the magician? What's his name? David Copperfield's in it.
Okay.
Believe it or not, he's in a slasher film. Don't ask me why, but he's there. So, we're going to talk about those. I'm going to see. That'll be a fun discussion to see which one is better. The better themed holiday New Year's Eve slasher. Right. Well, Dennis, you are again not really on the social medias, are you?
No, not really. I'm going to have to be. I think I'm going to have to at least do an Instagram or something, just so I can.
You do have an account, don't you?
Yeah, but it's. I think it's personal account. I think if I do one for this. And then I could promote it better. We can put stuff on and do all that kind of things. And especially with Grimfest and some of the stuff which is up and coming, I think it'd be nice just to kind of put that stuff on there.
Absolutely, yeah. Do it. It's up to you. Like, it's there. I will always tag you and always reference you and always make sure that you people know that you are involved, because people turn out to listen to you. You're everyone's favorite guest, so you've got to come back.
Favorite asshole. Uncle Knobhead.
Uncle Knobhead. Uncle Dickhead Dennis is back. What's he got opinions on this time?
From a fucking delight.
He's a fucking delightful Dennis. Yeah. There you go. That's your acronym. We were looking for your acronym, weren't we?
Delightful Dennis.
Delightful. You've got to say it like that. You've got to say it like it's not a great thing. Delightful. Ugh. He's delightful.
You know what? I'm going to have a shower after you've said that now. I feel dirty.
Filth.
Oh God, was my accent like then? Dirty. I felt dirty. There we go.
I felt dirty.
God, every now and again my accent just comes out. I don't like it.
It's like your werewolf coming out. It's like a little bit of your monster. Your inner monster pops out.
That's what my wife says.
Well, on that note, you can find me on the social medias. You can find me on Facebook at Secret Balls. Twitter, it's at Dan_Balls. Instagram, it's at SpiderDan Secret Balls. And don't forget to use the hashtag #PrepareForPrattle. For everything else you need to know about the podcast, swing over to SpiderDan and thesecretballs.com on the World Wide Web. And I would like to thank my patrons on Patreon. I am Jack's Musings, Paul Meller, Max Byrne, Tony Farina, Scott Hodgson, and Simon Cotton for their continuing donations. It is very much appreciated and helps Prattle World, if I can get it out of my teeth and my mouth today, keep on turning. And if you ever find yourself in a position to help the podcast, do please consider it. So thank you very much. And thank you, Dennis, for being another star, another dark star in this sky of Shockphobia Fest guests. And thank you for everyone who's helped me out during this month. Andy, Dan, my past self from 2020. I want to shout out to him because he was great. He did a really good job for the first episode. But yeah, we are all done and dusted.
Well, thank you for having me. And
Thank
I'm
you for
never
all.
reading a digital comic ever again.
I'm not going to make you. I'm not going to force you ever again. Thank you again for all your help with Grimfest and setting that up, Dennis. That was an amazing experience. I really enjoyed.
Not a problem.
And this is the first time we've really seen each other face to face since Grimfest. So
You're not really seeing me, are you? Because my camera's not really working very well.
I can see you. I can see you fine. I can see you
No,
fine.
and the Grimfest thing, is between you, me, and your listeners is growing.
Good stuff. This is good to hear, and I can't wait to get more stuck in if they'll have us. It's brilliant, an amazing experience, and again, it wouldn't have been possible without Dennis at all. That just literally wouldn't happen. I am not the networker that Dennis is. He is the real talent behind it. I just talk and record it and edit it. But thank you very much again, Dennis. You've been a star, and I'll see you in the new year. Happy Halloween.
Goodbye.